Hello, boils and ghouls. You are now tuned in to PVD Horror Podcast. Pleasant screams.
Hey everybody, welcome to PVD Horror. I'm Dave, and I'm here today joined with Meghan Adara, who is an actress who will be featured in the upcoming film The Cellar, which is directed and co-written by Jamie Langlands. And it's a British psychological horror film, I guess you would say, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So Meghan, thank you for joining us. And
Having me.
yeah, no problem. And I was curious, what got you into acting and what got you into films in general?
I was always like my mum would always watch over here we have BBC and ITV, and they do like really good dramas. And I was brought up watching like loads of dramas when I was younger, and I was always watched them and had this feeling of like, I think that I'd like to do that. Like, I don't know if I can, but it seems like a fun thing to do. And then my friend actually was part of a theatre like group, and she dragged me along one day. And I was always really shy, so even though I liked doing performing, I was like really shy, so I wasn't like overly like comfortable going. And then I went and I really enjoyed it. And from there I went to I did GCSE drama at school, and then went to college and studied acting, and then went to drama school. And from there, I just, joined in some student short films, working on as much projects as I could, auditioning to, keep my skill base, at the level that, I needed it to be.
It sounds like you fell in love
yeah.
with film and
Yeah.
acting.
Yeah, it wasn't. I didn't, grow up being like, "Oh, this is what I want to do."
Mhm.
I want to be an actress. Like, I never did that. It was just, I think I just enjoyed it, and I accidentally fell into it. And then I realized that it was a genuine career. And yeah, I've just, basically, I started off as amateur, and
Sure.
yeah, and slowly worked my way into the professional side. So yeah, that's how I got into acting.
Would you consider it a difficult career? Because I think that the idea of being an actor or being in films, it seems so glamorous, but I'm
Yeah,
assuming being an up and coming actor and actress is
mm,
actually really hard.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been doing this for like 15, maybe longer,
Wow.
acting, and yeah, you go into it thinking, oh, like how hard can it be? Like you're just, performing on a screen, and you're given some lines, and you
Yeah.
learn lines, and that's it. And then you actually start to study it, and you realize, oh, okay, there's a lot more that goes into it than what you first anticipated. But I think that's what makes you love it more, because it's not easy and
Yeah.
it's hard, but the hard work pays off. And when you're actually on set and you see the final product, you're like, oh my God, like that's amazing. Like I had such a great time. Look how great it's turned out. All the hard work was worth it. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't be where I am now, obviously, if I didn't do all that beforehand. And yeah, it's taken years for me to get to the point I am at now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm starting to see that the hard work pays off, because sometimes you're just like, put all these hours in, like, what's the point? I'm doing all these auditions and I keep getting a no. And then sometimes you just network with people, and like with Jamie,
Mhm.
and they want you to be part of the film. And sometimes the films that you just thought were going to be like you know, a nice little feature film wasn't really going to be seen by anyone, gets blown up into this massive thing, and next
Sure.
thing you're unknown to doing loads of interviews. So yeah, I'd say acting is a roller coaster, but I think it's a very rewarding roller coaster. And yeah.
I like that. A roller
Mm.
coaster. That's a good way to describe it, I think.
Yeah.
I also think it's so UK when you hear, because like so many actors from the UK have that theater background. And
Yeah.
I that seems like such an interesting part of UK actors, and probably why they're so multi-talented, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I started off doing theatre. Obviously, my training was predominantly theatre.
Mhm.
It wasn't really a thing now where they have dedicated screen acting courses. It was just you go in, you learn to perform for stage, and then you kind of, on your way of wanting to be a screen actor, you kind of teach yourself and have to, adjust your training to fit a
Yeah,
different type of acting. Because obviously theatre is so like out there and so bold, and then screen acting is so small and so naturalistic. You really have to like make sure that you're aware of what, part of the genre you're acting for.
sure.
So yeah, it's I think you now obviously there's way more courses that are just doing screen acting.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I'd love to do a course on screen acting. I always like learning new things. And yeah, but I started
I
off
th-
in
I think that's what keeps your interest in whatever field you're into, is when you keep learning about it. Because
yeah,
once you stop learning, I feel like it almost builds like complacency and a little bit of boredom. So
yeah.
whatever field you're in, I always encourage people to like continue to learn about it and
Mm.
just, keep that passion going for it.
Yeah, I always say that you can always learn more. Like,
Yeah,
haven't reached the end of learning. Like there's always something else that you can learn.
for sure.
You wouldn't necessarily have known that when you first started. And yeah, I just always just love learning new things. Like even with my research for acting, I really go into that. And I like to learn loads of stuff about the themes of it. And I go into a little bit of a rabbit hole. It starts off with doing this acting work, and then I'm just sat there like reading about
Yeah.
cult something. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Are you still shy?
Yeah. I probably don't come across as it now. But yeah, I'm very shy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have anxiety, quite bad. Um, but I don't know. I feel like the acting is a release of me wanting to be. I think acting makes me the person I actually am, because it allows me to be creative and to, let myself go and, have
Yeah.
fun and enjoy it. And I can make fun of myself because it's not me. Whereas actually without the acting, I'm a nervous wreck. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I'm very shy. I don't
Yeah.
really I won't say hello to someone unless they say hello to me, because I'm worried about looking like weird. Yeah, I just overthink a lot. So I think
Sure.
acting helps with the anxiety.
Well,
Uh,
when you're focusing on whatever you're trying to portray and get
yeah,
across, you're probably
yeah,
very
because
much in the moment, which is
yeah,
the
'cause-
exact opposite
mm,
of anxiety.
yeah, it's weird. It's like when the moment you start acting, it's for me anyway. When I start acting, it's literally like everybody else in the room is gone. I'm literally in the scene.
Yeah.
Like that's all I'm focusing on. I don't care about the outside world. Like I am the scene. And then they cut, and then you become really like conscious again of like, oh my God, like did I do a good job? Do people think
Sure.
it looked good? So yeah, it's weird. But I like
Although,
acting. It
yeah.
makes me more me. I learn things. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a pretty interesting personal background.
Hmm.
Um, and I was just curious if you'd be comfortable enough to share that with our listeners.
Yeah, of course. Where would you like me to start?
Well, it sounds like from pretty early age you had to deal with some medical issues.
Yeah. So when I was 10 months, I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. And I had, all the chemotherapy and stuff. And then when I was 11, so I was in remission for like 10 years.
Mm.
And then in 2011, I was diagnosed with needing a heart transplant. So I've had my new heart for 13 years,
Wow.
14 years, I think, maybe 13 years. Um, and yeah, so it's not what people, I mean, when you look at me, you wouldn't think anything's wrong. And I like that because I don't like people judging you before they know you.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, during the filming of The Cellar, I actually was diagnosed with I was diagnosed with bladder cancer during filming of The Cellar. So that was a
Wow.
fun time. But 2 weeks after my operation, I went and filmed the last scene. I wasn't meant to. I was meant to rest for 2 months, but I don't like resting. I don't like waiting around. I don't like my health problems getting in the way of, what I want to do.
Sure.
And I don't let it define me. I feel like you're more than what your health problems or mental health problems are.
Absolutely.
There's way more to you. And yeah, I think it's helped me drive myself and give me more motivation to get where I am because my health problems do obviously hinder some things that I can do.
Sure.
So the moment when I'm well enough, I'm all like guns blazing, like let's go before there's another
Yeah.
problem. So yeah, but yeah, I guess yeah, they're my
What's
health.
your current status, if you don't mind me asking?
So I'm in remission from the bladder cancer. I had the operation in June last year,
Mm.
so not that long ago. I'm in remission for that, but obviously I'm being checked up on like basically every 3 months.
Yeah.
And then for the heart transplant, my heart is basically, as good as if I didn't have a heart transplant. It's like a normal
Wow.
functioning heart. I have to take anti-rejection medication every day, morning and night, which gets tedious after a while. But
Is
once you
that
take,
forever?
yeah, for the rest of my life, yeah.
Wow.
If I don't take them, my body will reject my heart. So I could die, basically. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
amazing. What
yeah,
an amazing journey.
it does get boring, taking the tablets every single day.
Nothing you've described about your life sounds boring. It's your life sounds like it's been a roller coaster, and I
Yeah.
mean that with all like due respect. It just sounds like it's been ups and downs, but like
Yeah.
your drive
Hmm.
to maintain the thing that's important to you and the thing that actually gives you fulfillment is super
Hmm.
inspiring. And
Yeah.
so like that's kind of why I was hoping you would share this, is because like there's so many, and I didn't even know about the last part that you just mentioned with the bladder
No,
cancer.
yeah.
There's
Yeah.
there's so many people that would have derailed them completely
Hmm.
and probably thrown them completely off track of any kind of, you know,
Yeah. I
career.
mean, I was obviously, I guess, experienced in the realm of health problems, and
Yeah.
the hospital was essentially my first home. I wouldn't say it's my second home. I'd say it's my first home. I mean, I'm always in and out of hospital.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, and I also had like a great like support network around me. And also I was working at the time. I was working on my first lead, you know, role in a feature
Mhm.
film. So, that distracted me. So I think that helped. But yeah, I think the worst thing you can do when you're ill is, say to yourself, even if you don't say it out loud, it's just say in your head, I'm gonna die. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, how am I gonna like
Yeah.
that? I think that's the worst thing because you've already subconsciously told yourself that it's not going to be a good outcome.
Yeah.
So I always try, even if I'm like, heading that way, I'm always like, you've done it before, you can do it again. Like, this is a walk in a park. Just get on with it and see where it goes. And yeah, I always try and be
Wow.
positive. Yeah.
And considering, I mean, the first thing you mentioned was how bad your anxiety gets. I
Yeah.
can only imagine how that plays into all this at times. So
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not an easy
Oh no,
chore to reframe
no,
your thoughts and stay positive,
mm,
but
no. It's
somehow
more.
you're able to do it.
Yeah, this time, obviously, when I was younger, it was kind of like obviously the transplant was. I remember the whole journey, but like obviously the cancer one, you know, I don't remember anything. I was a baby.
Yeah.
But I think the worst thing is obviously people always like, oh my God, like that's awful. Like I hope that, you're going to get better. And like, I'm so sorry this has happened to you. And it's always focused on the person with the illness, but I don't think people really realize how badly it affects your family. Like that was the worst thing, is trying to keep yourself positive, but also try and keep your family positive
Sure.
so that they don't, start crying or like
Yeah.
panicking. Yeah, so it's like managing your own emotions and then also managing the family's emotions. Um, yeah, that I would say that was the most difficult part. Not actually
Yeah.
going through, was actually looking after my family. Yeah, I'd say that was the worst part. Yeah.
Yeah. It just feels like that's a heavy weight to have
Yeah.
on your shoulders. So yeah,
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
imagine. Now, having have gone through all this and and all the challenges that have come along with it, how has that influenced you, not just career, but life in general, would you say?
Um, I think it's affected me in the same way as it has my career. Like there's some things I'm not allowed to eat. I'm not allowed to eat cheese. I'm not allowed to eat
Yeah.
fish. I'm not allowed to go do some sports or stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't like, I'm not really meant to drink alcohol, but I'm like, technically you only live once. So like, just do it. Like, you know, I'm just, I'm very just like put the consequences in the back of my mind, and I'm like, if something happens, I'll just go to hospital and I'll deal with the aftermath. But yeah, I don't listen to the rules really. I go against the rules because you've already gone through so much, and then you're not going to eat cheese. Like you're taking happiness away from yourself.
Right.
And I'd rather be happy eating the things I want rather than being like, okay, well, I can't eat this and I can't eat this and, restrict myself. So, yeah, I basically just try and do as much as I can, even if I'm advised against it. So, yeah.
That even just hearing that makes me so anxious because when it comes to medical stuff, and right now I'm actually in my personal life, I have a number of people around me that are dealing with a lot of different medical conditions right now, and I'm such a rule follower when it comes to all this stuff. And hearing you say that, it like goes against everything. And I've actually been struggling because I've been seeing a lot of people going against like the hospital's recommendations and their treatment
Mm,
recommendations, and I've been like, it drives me a little like crazy because I'm like, oh
yeah.
God, what if something happens? But you're right. And that is a good way to look at it to some
Mm,
extent, is like you do only live once and you have to have some semblance of happiness
mm,
during this,
yeah.
existence. So you can't be 100%,
Oh, no. I mean,
rigid on the rules all the time.
yeah, my nanny, she died at 101 last year.
Wow.
But I mean, she was 101 and she was still drinking rosé wine. And family's
Yeah.
like, you can't drink. She's 101. She's on tablets. It's like she's 101. Like, why does it matter? Just
Yes, she can
let
drink the
her live.
rosé.
Yeah.
Yes. And that
She's not
rosé
gonna
is probably why
drink
she
the
lived to
rosé.
101.
Say that again.
I said the rosé is probably why she lived to 101,
Yeah,
actually.
exactly. And the gin and tonic. I'm not gonna
The
lie.
gin and tonic.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So just shifting to the film a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, so actually, let me start off by asking you, can you tell our listeners about The Cellar, what it's about and your role in it?
Yeah, so I play Abigail, which is the lead character in the film. And Abigail had a tough upbringing. Her dad left her and her mum when she was a baby, and her mum kind of, you know, presented Abigail in a way for, her husband leaving her. So they always had like this fractured relationship. But at the core, obviously, they really needed each other because at the end of the day, your mother and daughter, like you're always going to need your mum, even if you've had like a massive argument. Um, and then so she wasn't necessarily really close with her mum. Um, and she meets a best friend, and this best friend, that family basically take her in as like their own family member, and love her like she's their like other daughter, and that it's the sister. And then unfortunately her best friend dies, um, and she goes through this massive deterioration of mental health problems, is turning down the wrong paths, is doing drugs and alcohol, and doesn't know where to go. And eventually I guess she grows the courage, or maybe in her subconscious thinks, what would my friend say, what would my friend do? And she takes the courage to go join a church, a community church, to find community, to seek refuge, to meet, people in the same situations, and feel like she's not the only one. And basically she ends up going to these, church community meetups, and they're not what they've turned out to be. She wakes up one day locked in a cellar with no recollection of how she got there, why she's there, where she is, and has to basically fight for her life against her inner demons and the real demons in in the world around her, to try and escape. And yeah, I guess it doesn't really go the best for her, but I can't give away what happens at the end, so you'll have
Yes.
to. But yeah, that's it's very complicated, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
For sure.
as a character. So yeah, yeah.
So you and Jamie have worked, Langlands have worked on another film together, I believe. And that was The Caller, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah,
Is that where
similar.
you guys met?
No, Jamie and I had met maybe a few years before, I think. And we'd worked on a number of student films.
Okay.
And it kind of got to the point of we'd turn up at these shoots and we had no idea, like we knew of each other. I don't think we knew each other's names, like, or anything. Like we didn't ever message on like social media or anything. And then it kind of came this joke of like we'd turn up to these acting jobs and we'd both be on set and we'd be like, ah, it's you again. Hi. And it was always kind of a little bit awkward because like we knew each other, but we didn't. So we didn't really know like what to talk about. Um, and then we ended up actually working on a film, and it was just us two actors. Um, and we got to know each other really well then. And then we did The Caller, which we got close on again because he kills me in the film. Um, so spoiler. And then yeah, he just wrote this script for The Cellar, asked if I wanted to be a part of it, and I'd say that's when like our working relationship really like started to like blossom, I would
Sure.
guess. And we really got to know each other better because obviously I'm the lead actor, he's the director, like we're together all the time. But yeah, we knew of each other, and I thought he was an amazing actor. And I was just really excited to see him in a different role. So that was also a reason why I came on set, 'cause I was like, I know he's a great actor. He's written this great script. Like, what, I'm interested in seeing what he's going to be like as a director. And yeah, he's amazing. Like his ideas, the settings that he found, like, were insane. And I'd love to work on another film with him because he's just great to work with. And yeah, we're friends from it, yeah, as well.
That's
So
very cool.
yeah.
Um, Now, did you say yes to this film before or after you read the script? And what about it appealed to you other than working with him?
So I said yes after reading the script, on the basis that I thought I'd be playing the opening scene character. And I was like, yeah, like I think the script is amazing. Like it was so well written that I could see every single detail, and like I could like imagine everything that was going on. Like it was that detailed in the writing. And I was like, I need to be part of this. Like, this is amazing. And I can imagine the location as well. And I was like, this could be something really special. And he wanted it to be a feature film, but the premise was that it was going to be a short film. We were going to use it as a proof of concept, try and get funding, and then from there do the feature. So I thought I was going to be the prologue character, and he was like, oh no, like I want you to play the lead. And I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. Like, it's another actor who thinks that, I'm good enough to play the lead. Like, this is great. And then, yeah, basically from there, it went into a feature film. And then it started dawning on me that I'm the lead of a feature film,
Yeah.
which I'd never done before. And yeah, it started to become a bit daunting because then it blew up and people were like, from the stills, it like looks amazing. I've looked at your like show reel and you're really good. And I'm like, what if it comes out and people don't think I'm good? Like,
Oh,
so
geez.
yeah, it was an enjoyable time, and it
Yeah.
obviously still is. But yeah, it was also a bit like overwhelming at the same time. Like, I didn't expect it to get this big, you know.
Have you guys done any screenings of the film yet?
Yeah. So we did a premiere in September, which was on the 8th of September, last year. And it was like really well received. Everybody loved it. And it was really great to see it actually on a big screen with
Yeah.
all the cast and crew. And then also it's done like the film festival round. So we've won, I can't remember how many we've won. We've won numerous awards for the film.
Wow.
In the US, England, and different countries. And I've won 3 Best Acting awards as well, which I didn't expect. So yeah, it's been a great journey. Yeah.
That's cool. Congratulations on that. That's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
You know what makes the performance special is you have to do a lot with very little dialogue for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of emotion you have to portray without using words.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if that's more difficult than having a lot of dialogue to express how you're supposed to be
Yeah.
feeling.
Yes, it was very difficult. Particularly the scenes where I'm crying and nothing's there. So I'm having to imagine that there's something there that I'm reacting to and try and get really, really worked up for it, and there's nothing there. And that was difficult for me. I mean, I did it somehow. But yeah, it was a challenge because obviously you're like sitting there doing this scene, and then after you've done the scene, you're like, but there's nothing there. Like,
Yeah,
like, does it look good? Like, is my reaction genuine to what she's meant to be,
sure.
seeing or reacting to? And it was only until the film was done and you see the added bits that it does make sense. So in that way, yeah, it was really difficult just acting physically with basically hardly any dialogue, because you can't rely on the fact of, if your physical acting and your facial acting isn't conveying what they're meant to be for the audience, that you can rely then on the dialogue coming in, and then it's kind of spelling it out for them and trying, the
Yeah.
dialogue then going to make it make sense. So it was really like crucial for me that I was making sure my physical acting and facial expressions were, on point, to make sure that what I'm reacting to made sense once the thing was added in. So yeah, it was difficult, but I really enjoyed the challenge. And I think it made me a better actor, and made me aware of my capabilities more. And that maybe I shouldn't be as harsh on myself. So yeah, but yeah, it was a challenge, but it was a lot of fun, and I'd
Yeah.
I'd do it again. Like,
And it's
oh,
it's tough too because you can't oversell, right? With body language. You don't want
yeah,
to like look too dramatic in certain scenes. So I'm sure it's kind of like this challenge of trying to portray but not look like you're overreacting or overacting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a lot of you know, sometimes I'd go in and do my perception of what the script was, and sometimes it was perfect. Like Jamie was like, that it was exactly like what I wanted. And I'm like, oh, really? He was like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, I was worried that it was like too much or it wasn't enough. And he's like, no, it's like perfect. And then sometimes there was other times when, Jamie would run the scene with you before, give you some like blocking to make sure that what he was envisioning was obviously captured to the best it could be. So you always had, an idea of what Jamie wanted. So that helped, meeting those
Yeah,
blocks essentially.
sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that struck me when I was watching this, and I don't know if you have any thoughts about this, but from the films that I've gotten to catch, like indie, like lower budget indie UK horror,
Yeah.
a lot of the tone is very different than what American indie films look like right now. It's a way
Yeah.
more psychological based,
Yeah.
and I was just curious, what are your thoughts about why the UK's indie films are more in line with that psychological horror right now?
Um, I think indie horror, well, horror in general is a massive. People love horror from America to the UK to
Yeah,
where people love horror. Um, and when the indie horror genre came out, I think people jumped at it because you can be the most creative than you can with any other film, and you can basically do anything you want and then add in some, gore and jump scares, and you've got a horror film, and they're just really fun to make. But I think people are starting to like play around with it, like with the Cellar. It's a psychological horror with sci-fi elements, which you've never like seen before, which
sure.
was the reason I also became involved in it. Um, I think it's also because, it's a challenge to try something new and not just go down the same route as, what you would see in the big, movies like Hollywood.
Yeah,
Um, and also, we don't have most of the work comes from America. So I feel like the indie horror genre in the UK has to try and meet that specification, but in a different way to try and get that engagement. And I think because people have started playing around with it and challenging the horror genre, it's really started to take off because they realize that, you know, the UK has so much talent in the indie horror genre that it's starting to challenge the Hollywood, big horror films. And
sure.
I've read so many comments recently saying that indie horror in the UK is better than some of the horror movies that are coming out in America. And I just think that's because we all have a passion for horror. People love horror, and um, people write all these amazing scripts, and it's just so exciting when you get to make it, that you get to try out all these different ideas, and you don't have a time frame to meet. You don't have to pay these actors like thousands and thousands of dollars that you would. So I think it's just allowing us to be more creative, and the fact that we don't have the big studios over here, so
Sure.
we've got to try something different, and it's seeming to work. I mean, people love them. Yeah, the Cellar is such a mixture of genres that you wouldn't think to ever put together. Yeah. So I think that's like, I hope that answers the question. Like, I don't know if I worked my way around it, but
No, I think you did. I think you did.
yeah.
And that's, you brought up a lot of great points. Like there is, and the genre itself is so broad, but I
Yeah.
think that people are starting, like there's some films that came out that really boosted up the genre for sure, especially with indie films.
Yeah.
And one UK like production company, I'm thinking of the ones that did like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and all
Yeah.
those films. Like those are very gory slasher films, and that
Yeah.
like
The
got a lot
typical.
of people got people very excited for what you could
Yeah.
do with low budgets.
Yeah.
But I think now people are like, well, we can also do these other things, and
Yeah.
you're starting to
Exactly.
see
Yeah.
them expand. I mean,
Mm.
also though, I do want to say, like, I did see that Jamie has a role in the upcoming Piglet movie, which I'm very excited for. So
Yeah.
I saw it on his IMDb credits. So
Oh,
so
I'm
he's
in.
also dipping into that a little bit as well.
Yeah,
So
I was in Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey too, as a raver. So I was an extra,
oh, you
just
were in the rave
waving.
scene.
Yeah, I didn't know that he was in Piglet, that he kept that quiet. I'm going to be asking him about
I just
that.
got him in trouble. Oh, that's cool that you were in Winnie the Pooh. I just actually watched that like a few weeks ago,
Oh,
and
did you? I haven't
it was a
watched it,
good.
if I'm honest. I have this thing of like not watching myself. Like, even though I'm not really in it, I know at some point I'm going to pop up and it like kind of like makes me feel weird,
I
you
was
know?
going to ask you about that earlier when you were talking about when a project's finished and
Mm,
seeing yourself. I was actually going to ask you because a lot of times like so doing like podcasts or things where you have like I have a hard time going back and listening to it again because I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I don't want to hear my voice. I don't and things like that. So I was curious if you ever
Yeah.
it sounds like you experienced that a little bit too.
The only time I'll watch it is if I'm having to make a show reel, and then I'll watch it. But the problem is, if I was to watch a film with me in it, I just criticize myself the whole time.
So
So I
you
don't
lose your
actually,
appreciation. Yeah.
yeah, so I don't actually appreciate the rest of the film because I'm just sat there like thinking about my last scene where I could have done it so many different ways and why did I do it that way? So I just tend not to watch myself because I just find it a horrible experience, and it's also cringy, and I hate my voice on video. I sound like a child.
You got to expose yourself to it though, because after a
Yeah,
while you do
at
get
some
used
point.
to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You are very hard on yourself. We gotta
yeah,
work on this.
yeah.
So Megan, thank you so much for chatting with me and sharing, you know, everything, your personal life and your career and all that stuff. I'm very honored for you to be able to share your story here. I was just curious if you have any other future works that you wanted to give a shout out about, and also
Yes.
where our listeners can find you on social media or anything.
Yes, so I'm on Instagram as Meghan_Adara, and Facebook as Meghan Adara. And I think I'm on Twitter as well. I think it is Meghan Adara. I'm really bad with my handle names. I get really confused. Um, so you can find me on them. And then there's actually a project that I am another lead role of, which is called Amelia. It is another horror film.
Oh,
Uh, it is about a vampire, and it's based in a small little quaint little English village. And she turns up to this village and people start dying, mysteriously dying. And there's this whole like detective, you know, um, trying to figure out who's done these murders. And I'm really excited because the script's insane. The composer who's doing the music is like come up with some really, really great ideas. And it's going to be more gory, and there's going to be some more jump scares compared to the Cellar. So it's going to be more of a traditional, more,
sure.
type of horror film. And yeah, it's just going to be great. We've got really great cast, great director. You've actually some people, Gabriel in The Cellar, who's played by Neil James. He's in the film.
Mhm.
Um, and the producer, Jay Shuri, who also produced The Cellar, is producing this film as well. So we got some people from The Cellar back, which is really exciting.
Cool.
And yeah, we've got an Indiegogo at the moment. And I'm handling all the social media.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so we're on Facebook as Amelia Horror Feature Film. We're on TikTok as Amelia Horror Feature Film, Twitter, Instagram. We're on all the social medias, so you should come over and follow and keep up to date because it's getting exciting. I'm really excited if you can't tell about it.
Very cool. Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
All right. So Indiegogo campaign for Amelia. Definitely make sure you check that out. The Cellar, we don't have a specific
yeah.
release date, but I do believe that will be releasing some part in the early part of the year, from what I understand,
Hmm.
hopefully. So keep your eyes out for that. And make sure you follow Megan on all her social medias. And even if she gave us the wrong handles, we'll just have to search her up
We will figure it
until we
out.
find her. Yeah, exactly. Until
Yeah.
we find you.
Yeah,
So,
cool.
Megan, thank you again so much for joining us. I'm excited for people to check out The Cellar, but I'm also very excited for your upcoming films. And yeah, hopefully you come back sometime and we can chat
Yeah,
again.
that'd be great. Thank you so much for having me. I've had a great time. Thank you.
Awesome. No problem. All right, everybody. I'll see you later. Have a great night. Check out the Cellar. Bye.
Game over.